Kerrod, episode 14 of Your Wealth Playbook today. We've got a couple of very exciting young entrepreneurs.
Yes, Josh and Thea from Goosey Sports talk to us all things family life, building wealth, and building business. More importantly, they are running a wildly successful apparel business, which in such a saturated market is incredibly difficult to do.
A couple of UK expats that came out 10, 11 years ago for 6 months worth of footy and still here now kicking goals in the apparel space.
Yes, they saw a gap in the market with Josh playing in New South Wales in regional areas and couldn't get training gear or apparel gear. Thought maybe we can do something a little bit better. And the idea was born from a pain point that most clubs deal with, and it has grown over 100% year on year for these last 4 years to the point now where it is their full-time jobs. And it's got some key principles around building the business and how important planning is to their success. So let's dig into it. Josh, Thea, welcome. What's one thing that somebody should know when they're starting out an e-commerce business or brand for the first time as a side hustle?
Get ready for the journey, strap yourself in. Firstly guys, thanks for having us. I think starting the journey as a side hustle, especially in a space of apparel and clothing, pretty saturated space, and really got to dig deep and find your spot there if you are going to kind of succeed and kind of be consistent. It's not happening overnight. We're 5 years going strong now, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster, but yeah, we're pretty glad that we came out the other side.
You've worked 2 jobs for that time, have just gone full-time into Goosey, give up your previous full-time role. Why did you work 2 jobs?
Wasn't that a choice, but there's a few reasons behind it. I guess, firstly, when Goosey Sports did start, it was very small scale, it was a bit of a side hustle. We were out west and we were just doing a few local clubs. Was working another job there, but could kind of, you do both, in evenings, and it kind of worked well. As we slowly grown over the years, we had our first son, Oka, who's just coming up to 2, so it kind of made sense for Thea to go full-time first. She does a lot of the design and admin side of things and liaising with customers. So that was kind of the obvious decision, and I really enjoyed my job. I didn't really want to give it up, to be honest with you. I was pretty passionate about it, mentoring young Aboriginal boys through sport in school. I came to the tough decision that, to grow this brand now to where it's kind of at, we really need to scale it and kind of go all in. And that's where we're at now. And, we kind of set a few personal goals as well, and we wanted to make sure we had them and we were kind of stable before, leaving that other job too, as a bit of as a backup plan.
I think it's great because a lot of people will just jump into it with no sort of backup plan or fallouts and just go whole hog into it. You've gone the other option and wanted to make sure that the business has been operational now for 4 years, 5 years nearly. It's going well. I think you mentioned to me the other day that growth in this last 12 months has been about 100% year on year.
Yeah.
And if there's the only full-time employee, I'd imagine that a lot of that is coming from her and her great work and what she does. Not discounting you at all, though.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I think, obviously, if I'm being completely transparent, Thea is probably the backbone of the business. I'm the face and kind of meeting people in and out, but Thea works tirelessly, from the time she wakes up to the time she goes to bed, processing orders, getting back to every email, finding new leads. And she's definitely deserves a pat on the back, that's for sure. Also whilst having Oka full time.
What brought you out to Australia to start with? And did you see yourselves being here long term when you first got here back in 2015, 2016?
We definitely didn't, did we? It was just we were in a bit of a rut, I think, back home, and it was just, we always wanted to come to Australia, just never had the opportunity rise, and then we were ready to, we would think, we were obviously very young then, we were like, we'll, start saving for a house back home. We knew it was going to take years. And then Josh just got a email through Rugby, just offering to come out and play in parks. Obviously it said, it's a small town, nowhere near the beach or anything like that. But we were just like, we left with nothing, didn't we? We left, 2 weeks later, and only thought we'd be out there, you know, for 6 months for a rugby season, and that was it. But yeah,
Yeah,
here we are.
yeah. It was, yeah. It's when you look back at it, it's pretty crazy, to be honest with you. Like I think they emailed, like I had an agent back home at the time, and you know, we didn't really know much about the opportunity. It was a pretty good gig, and we always wanted to come to Australia, as Thea said, and that was on the Monday, and the Friday after I was gone. Thea handed her notice in at work and followed me out 3 weeks later, and yeah, we've, you know, the first 4 or 5 years we didn't even get to go home due to visas and COVID and everything else. So it's, you know, obviously really hard, a lot of sacrifice from us being away from family and stuff, but like, I don't know, I do see Australia as the land of opportunity, and we'll like kind of be forever grateful for that.
Yeah, definitely.
What kept you here after the season ended?
The weather.
Yeah, where do you start now?
Yeah, oh mate, I kind of probably encourage everybody from the UK to come out here and give it a crack, because yeah, the money side of things is great. Obviously, yeah, the way of lifestyle with the weather, you know, winters here are probably better than our summers back home. You know, yeah, obviously do miss home, miss family and friends, but yeah, it was pretty hard to leave at the time. I think probably one thing that most people don't know is we had to get permanent residency to stay. So you can basically stay for 3 years, or you've got to go home unless you can get sponsored by an employee. Thea got a sponsored here through an old employee, and it was a bit of a back and forth, a long process, and you couldn't leave the country while we were there. So yeah, that took around 4 years all in. We saved up enough money, you know, to go through the process. It was either go home and put a house deposit down, or risk it and apply for that residency. And yeah, it kind of worked out for us now. And
Yeah.
we're always glad we made that choice.
Yeah.
Amazing that you do get the opportunity, if that's what you want to do, to get that residency. I'd imagine
Yeah.
it's a long process though.
It was a long process. Yeah, it was a painful process. A lot of paperwork and, you know, a lot of that side. And I guess it's the risk as well. You know, you throw someone all this money, you've never met this, and like we went through a
Migration agent.
Yeah, and you know, you hear of all these horror stories of like just them not doing it properly, and yeah, I think like once we'd applied, it then took like 18 months like of waiting to hear back from anything, you know. So we were just a waiting game, and then yeah, obviously we couldn't leave the country during that time, so it was just a waiting process, but yeah, it was worth it.
That's a fairly big gamble,
Yeah.
money aside, but also waiting away from family and friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old were you two at that stage?
Would have been probably
We moved over.
No.
We moved over. No, we moved over here when we were around 20.
Yeah.
So we were about 2 years in. So yeah, probably 22, 23.
Yep.
Yeah. So
It's a big life decision to want to stay in Australia long
Yeah.
term or get residency.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you look back at it, at the time, we were probably just that keen that we wanted to stay, that you probably didn't reassess. You know, that you are probably going to be sacrificing leaving home for the rest of your life, or for definitely a long period of time too. You know, so yeah, it was a weird one.
And how early on in the piece did you identify that there was a gap in the market in regional areas with sporting attire?
Yeah. So back to the business side of things so basically, yeah, obviously I came out to play footy, played there for around 2 years, and got involved with the club when we knew we were staying long term. And kind of when I jumped on the committee, I kind of dived in with that apparel side of things, just go reaching out to suppliers, getting kind of deals and stuff. But it was kind of all just a long-awaited emails. Quality was coming, wrong colours. And I was kind of like, right, this is probably happening to a lot of regional clubs here, and kind of was talking to the boys when we were playing them, and it was. And I said to Thea, I think there's a bit of a gap in the market here, and kind of just got online and was trying to do as much research as I could. Like anyone that is in the apparel game, there's a lot of suppliers out there, but there's a lot of horrors out there too. To find a really good supplier, you're probably going to have to get on a plane, to be honest with you, and get over there and kind of build that relationship. Unfortunately, we couldn't at the time because COVID just hit. So we were really lucky that we found a supplier that we still partner with now, and kind of did an online Zoom. There wasn't too much apparel being sold because obviously the COVID happened, but we got into doing like club face masks and all that sort of stuff. And then slowly, as the season started in, training tops, kind of getting a foot in the door with local clubs. And then kind of as that next year rolled in, we really started just to hit the ground running.
Mate, what a time to start a business
Yeah.
during COVID, especially apparel business when everything's shut. You can't get on any planes, you can't see any suppliers, and you're making face masks.
Yeah.
Leading into, with sporting clubs and all of their apparel, you've got their ties to, Country New South Wales being on a committee. Was it out in Parks?
Yeah, out in
Yeah.
Parks, yeah.
Yep.
The rugby was still on, I think. Was it in Park?
It got cancelled the first year,
Oh, no.
and then, pushed it to the second, yeah.
Yep. So we can take this on, we can supply your gear, we'll get it on time, we'll get the right colours, we'll make sure the sponsors are on, and then it's grown from there.
Yeah, mate, like I said, we were always grateful for Kev Oliver, who was the president there, and the Club of Parks for firstly not just give what they've done for Goosey, but what they did for us bringing us over and stuff. But yeah, I said, look, mate, I really think I can give this a go. Like, could you give us a foot in the door? They let us do the training apparel and everything on the first year. And then when they kind of seen the quality and stuff, they gave us a foot in the door next year to do all the playing kits. And then, yeah, kind of a roll-on effect. I was playing in that comp. A few friends that were playing for other teams kind of got me a foot in the door there, and then word of mouth kind of started to spread, and that's how Goosey Sports evolved.
Now, you describe yourselves as partners to clubs rather than just suppliers. How does that look?
Yeah, from me, I guess like we were both heavily involved with the clubs, and we kind of could see what you needed to do. We're not just a kit supplier. You send us your jerseys and your colours, and we'll send you the logos. We always try and meet face to face with every client, kind of find out pain points, why they are, what they've struggled with in the past. A lot of things, we do kind of try and help, which other suppliers don't as well. It's like sponsorship and kind of working out costs for the kind of the club. Maybe, all right, well, if you need X, Y, and Z, maybe this should be the major sponsor for the front, this for the sleeve. You're not telling them what to do, but you're kind of recommending and just trying to help the club from a financial point as well as of selling them just selling kit. If they're obviously making money off it, they're happy to come back and spend more with us too.
A lot of people won't look at that, especially through Country Rugby League. Sponsorship is massive for any team, and for the success of any team. And if you've got a supplier like Goosey that can come and say, hey, I think that this brand, if that's your major sponsor, might be better having their logo purely on the front. Let's put some sleeve sponsors on or things like that, and you can really help drive revenue for a club, I would imagine.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I think, like I said, we were trying to look at a point of difference, and I don't believe that there is many people, I guess, that are dealing directly with the owners. A lot of the bigger brands, have reps and stuff working for them. I guess that's our big point of difference too, mate. You're dealing directly with the owners, and that's us really.
Very good. Running a business like Goosey, having a financial strategy, it's obviously a total separate entity to yourselves personally. How do you manage cash flow? And I'd imagine that there's some pretty large orders and there's cash flow constraints like a 60-day waiting. Like, how do you manage all that?
I think when you start up, it's a bit of a balance. You're wearing many hats. Do you know what I mean? You're wearing many hats. And one thing that I think we've probably both found out is you've got to learn to know your numbers. At the beginning, I was very sell. Money coming in, money coming out, and we didn't have any overheads. Being fully transparent, we were doing this out of our bedroom.
Yeah.
So all our spare rooms would have been full of apparel, but so we didn't have too many overheads, so cash flow wasn't a massive thing. But as you do go to scale a business, and you get a warehouse, you start paying yourself wages. You really do got to know your numbers. I think that's, if we're going on it, kind of advice, passing it back to people, kind of reverse it. So if you you're going to have to make X, Y, and Z a month. Okay, well, how many tops I got to sell? How many pairs of shorts? And reverse cycle from there is probably my biggest advice.
I think it's definitely the right advice. It's what I work with a lot of business owner clients is what's your expenses? What's the fixed cost of the business to be operational when you're including wages and things like that? And then you just work back from whatever service that you've got, making sure that you're hitting that number each month. So if it is tops, you go, okay, no worries, I need to hit 10, 15 tops a month. Or, for whatever business it is, if it's a plumber, I need to be doing X, Y, Z jobs per week so that I can hit the monthly target and the boys can get paid. But where does that come from? How do you learn how to do that if you're just learning a business? Because a lot of businesses, as you said, just start at the sales, won't have a look at their numbers.
Yeah. Trial and error at first, but also any small business starting out, like get yourself around the right people. You know, we were pretty lucky. We had a few mentors in the park space that were very successful in business. A fella, Tony Byrne, who was kind of in the workwear space, gave me a lot of help to get this off the ground. And I was lucky the guy that brought me over to Australia, Greg Peterson, kind of led me in the right way. So yeah, definitely surround yourself with the right people, but then also get the right help, you know, like personally, obviously us reaching out to you for financial direction. You obviously need that financial direction as a business too, not just personally. So yeah, just get in the framework right. And just having clear structures, I'd say.
Yeah.
What was the moment that you realized this was too big for bedrooms and that they were too full of apparel?
Yeah, see these grey hairs on the side of my head?
Balance was
balance.
definitely,
Yeah.
We were losing out on, I think, that, you know, we didn't have the separation of home and work. It was just kind of like everything was, you know, everywhere you'd walk, you'd be like, oh my God, like it's just surrounding me. There was no, and you know, obviously like that is the job that we do. You know, we do have to be doing emails late at night because obviously the time difference and stuff like that, which, you know, you're all for. But I think just having the different space that you can then just be like, okay, this is where we work from in the days. Like this is where all the stuff stays. We can go home, we can spend time with Oka, you know, and then as soon as Oka goes to bed, it's back on the computer. But just having that time, you know, where then you can be like, yeah, I think the balance was huge.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, I think we set ourselves a few goals, especially when we moved to Newcastle, and when we kind of hit them, we kind of did the numbers, checked that we were financially good, and then kind of were like, yeah, okay, like this is the time now for us to move on and kind of go all in with this business, you know. So I'm really excited for how the next probably 12 months pan out, and then we'll probably reevaluate and be able to plan again.
Very financially responsible is, I know obviously you two, but to do that, because a lot of businesses won't, they will just take on too much, or, you know, or they'll add debt in there to fund their growth, where I think that you have both built the business the right way, made sure that you didn't overextend yourselves, had to eat into a little bit of family time and house and things like that, but making sure that financially you had the stability first before you go and get rent and before you go and get a commercial space and things like that. So
yeah, I obviously, you know, there's people out there that'll go all in straight away and it'll pay off for some, but I think we kind of evaluated what was our priority, you know, when we had a family, and firstly was kind of getting there, and now we're looking to scale. So yeah, everyone's probably different, but I think as long as you've got something structured out and something to follow, I know I say this to many people, like I need, if you can give me something to follow, I'll make sure I get to the targets. You know, if I kind of winging it, that's probably where I'm going to fall out of place and be chasing my tail for a little while.
Now, scaling and still keeping it as a personal relationship, because every business at the end of the day is a relationship business, and that's something that sounds like a very high priority to you both, and meeting with clients face to face and continuing to grow and nurture that. What does that look like as the business continues to scale?
Yeah, I think that's probably answers the last question too, of why I did have to leave the role at my other job. You know, I could feel myself probably not get, you know, something I pride myself on. I'm pretty glued to my phone for anyone that knows me, but I'll get back to emails or calls pretty quickly. And working those two roles, I was really struggling to, as we were growing, to kind of keep that point of contact. And that was probably the main reason there. I thought, right, I better, you know, stick to my word. I don't want to be preaching about point of touch and not getting back to people for 2 or 3 days, you know. So when I noticed that, that's when we kind of started making a bit of an exit plan from work. To kind of keep that personal touch. Long-term growth for us obviously would be, you know, employing the right people. It'll definitely be people that are in the sports space, kind of being on communities itself, kind of just, yeah, that'll be the next point. But realistically, especially in the Newcastle area, we're looking for a few more clubs in what's our bread and butter, the Union and League space. But how we're kind of going to grow first now is kind of that cricket space, a bit of netball too, and soccer. They probably are our three work-ons in that sort of space, with apparel, we've got a few things in the pipeline too that we're working on with going into e-commerce, which will start very small, and then see how that kind of pans out, and we'll just leave it as a bit of a side hustle.
Lovely.
Exciting. You mentioned that business has been going for 4 years now. You've also got a 2-year-old. How do you manage the juggling between, you were working 2 jobs, a start-up business, and also marriage, family, and a 2-year-old?
Yeah, it's a lot. No, definitely structure. I think, we rely on the structure so much. With it just obviously being just us two and Oka out here, no other family or anything like that. It's important to have that balance that we can give, everything to both roles, like the business and to the family, we've got to kind of spread our time between them both and make sure that, we're fulfilling in both of those roles. So I think having a structure for us to follow is, definitely something that we need.
Yeah.
I've seen Oka go along with you two into the office, if that's what you want to call it, into the workspace. Do you think that's important for him, and some of the values that you want to instill in him as he grows up is that, mum and dad do work hard and this is what it looks like? Is that something that's important to you both?
100%, yeah. He loves it. Like he's, even though he's, so little and so young, like he's already, loves the boxes when they turn up. He tries to lift them in the house and, he tapes them down. Like he loves it. I think it's like his way of him getting involved in something that we do, because, you're always involved in them, aren't you? And then playing with their stuff. But I think then when he knows that it's like something that we have to do, he does really enjoy being involved with it, which we're very lucky. Yeah, you know.
And I guess we probably, one thing that I look back on now that we probably should have done a bit more of is documenting the journey of how we've kind of got here. Through the sacrifice and the hard work is probably something I look back and think, when we tell these sort of stories, I don't have too much to show how we actually did it. So one thing I'm going to kind of work on now as well, we're got a bit more time for going all in, is kind of just documenting that journey, and when we hopefully look back in 5 years' time, we'll be able to think, and he's got something to look back to.
It's something that I do with my kids, and I dislike taking videos of the kids and things like that, but when I do put them online, they'll be there forever. Yeah. So they can always go back and say, oh, we did this with dad or mum, and what it looks like, and documenting that journey.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a big thing. Sometimes you feel like, I just want to be in the moment and kind of enjoy that time too. But especially from a business point, sometimes you've got to kind of capture that and actually tell the story so people realize what's going on behind the scenes. Some people probably say, you're lucky you got this, but they kind of don't see what's gone in behind it too. Because
there is a lot of hard work, a lot of late nights that do go into sacrificing a lot, which you've both done from a young age to get the business to where it is today, that you can employ yourselves, and has some phenomenal growth. Josh, you mentioned before that going on and dabbling onto the e-commerce side of things. Can you give us a little bit more detail around what's in the pipeline for Goosey?
Yeah, mate. So we're just waiting on getting the website kind of e-commerce ready, firstly. We do a lot of team shops and stuff at the moment, but yeah, we're going to bring firstly in an off-the-field range, which is going to just be cotton jerseys, jackets, and a few different parts of apparel. And yeah, we're also, where I know where you're going is with a bit of a range, which is going to be a golf range. We're going to dive into that space, start small, but yeah, it's going to be called Voyager Golf. And then really try and get into that space too, a bit of content behind it, and tell the story of how we're going to grow that.
If you ever need someone to make some content with some horrible golf playing, mate, we're always available.
That's actually the idea behind it. I thought if I can start a golf apparel brand, I've got no reason to play every day.
Is that so you can let Thea know that it's for
content? It's content.
Tax deductible golf.
Yeah. There's some great golf courses around Australia too, mate. If you I might be able to come along too if I get the invite.
100%. Yeah. We'll just do weekly or monthly trips.
For content.
Yeah, exactly.
Documenting the journey.
Thea, what's it like to work alongside husband Josh in a small business?
Yeah, I love it, to be honest. I think this is just a job that Josh was made for. He just absolutely thrives in it, and I just feel grateful that I get to do it with him. And yeah, having Oka around it too, I think it's such a special thing that I feel very grateful for it, and I feel like we're very well balanced. Josh is definitely the salesperson, and he's the great communicator with clubs, and I guess that's why we have such great relationships with them, whereas I like to be a bit more behind the scenes. But yeah, I feel like we have a good, we know our key roles, and it just works well, and we always obviously bounce off each other too. Like if I'm like, oh, what do I do with this? Or, like he's always there. And yeah, I think we are very lucky that we have a good, a very well balanced and relationship.
Yeah, you talk to some people and they think you're crazy working with your wife.
Yeah,
how do you
like,
how do you do it? Not Thea's the most laid back person, and she puts up a lot working with me all the time. But that was probably another thing, like now we are going to be in each other's pocket a lot. We did sit down and like identify key roles and responsibilities within the business. So not say that we'd be down each other's throat, but we can also kind of say, right, well, this is your role, this is mine, and then you got a lot of accountability, and you're not there's not that grey area of, oh, I thought you were meant to be doing this and I was meant to be doing that. So we did sit down recently and kind of just identify our key roles. And like you said, obviously we're not a massive business, a small business. You're just going to kind of chip in and help each other anyway.
Yeah.
Last thing you want is stress in the business going home with you both.
Yeah, 100%. I wasn't going to play footy this year for just obviously with the business growing, but Thea quickly told me to go back and play footy because Tuesdays, Thursdays was her downtime. So yeah, retirement lasted about 6 weeks, I think.
I got the opposite conversation from my wife that I need to stop playing football so I can be home with the children. So
got to act on it.
Now, you've both obviously got a fierce work ethic, and the business has grown year on year. What's driving you or lighting that fire to continue it to grow from here? What's not making you just sit back and say we're happy where it is at the moment? What lights that fire every day for you?
For me now, like, it's probably the biggest fire in the belly I've had for a long time, because I wouldn't say I've played it safe, but I've always had that extra income to fall back on, working another job, where now we're scaling and growing. I've kind of set myself up for sink or swim, so just as we've said, touched on, really kind of reevaluated our goals, where we want to be in 3 years time, 5 years time, and then kind of just micromanaging that to where we need to be in the next 6 months, really just breaking it down and having clear goals is probably what's making it realistic for us and knowing that it's achievable.
Very goal driven, the both of you. What is the 3-year goal?
3-year goal. We've got it written down, mate. I'll be honest with you. We sat down with our accountant, was it last year, and kind of did a 24-month plan for the 2 years. The first year we fell a little bit short because with Oka being born. This year we did hit our numbers, which was, if I look back when I started this business, it was very unrealistic. If somebody told me I'd be where I was when we started it, I would have probably laughed, to be honest with you. And that's probably one thing I know it's achievable now if you do have a bit of a plan in place. So yeah, I'd like to say 3 years time, mate. We don't want to scale too quick either, because like you said earlier, we'll probably go away for what we stand for. But yeah, probably how 3 years would probably look. We probably have another 2-3 employees working for us. I'd like to think, one in the sales space. The first person we'll probably take on is a bit of a production manager, kind of take on the role of the warehouse, kind of box in, and kind of probably still go out and be kind of a face around Newcastle as well.
Is there a chance you'd go global with it?
Look, probably with UK space. Like I've got more contacts in the UK than I do over here. Obviously, grew up playing footy over there, and a lot of our childhood friends are still there. There was chats with my sister and her partner about doing it with them, which kind of faded away when they've had their first child too. But yeah, I think we just really want to nail this space first, before we do look to go overseas again.
Running an apparel business, and you've got your supplier, how do you make sure that the quality is going to be good so that you can get repeat customers?
We spent a fair bit of time on that.
We spent I think it was 12 months. We were going back and forth, with the supplier, just to make sure we were 100% satisfied
Yeah.
with the fabric and, you know, the sizing mainly as well. And you've done, you know, you've already been over to the factory and spent some time over there, and I think that built the relationship,
Yeah,
you know,
game
then
changer.
even better. And then, you know, this year you plan to go again. So I think having that constant, you know, that you're seeing them face to face, you know, because it kind of puts it into a bit of perspective. Like when you're speaking to someone every day, you know, and you don't really know, you haven't got that relationship yet. So I think when Josh did do that trip, you know, I think, you just build such a solid, you know, understanding of what they do and like the work that goes into it.
Yeah, they're a partner of the business. Do you mean?
Yeah.
You know, they're not just a supplier now. Like they've helped us so much with our growth, and building that relationship, kind of going over with them, and you know, we talk to them every day. So it's been awesome. But as Thea said, we probably didn't start the business. We were probably lucky, actually. I'd say more with COVID happening, that we had that back and forth time to no, we weren't happy with this. Let's change that. As probably many people that have kind of tried going direct themselves, they get the sent and it's 3 sizes too small, you know. So size charts being changed monthly, you know, every 3 months if we're not happy with something on a certain order has probably been solid for us. And just changing fabrics, mate. The longer you're in the industry and you kind of see and learn about fabrics, that's probably, you know, what we thought was our elite range now is probably more of our pro range, you know, and we're just slowly progressing and trying to be sustainable as well within the environment.
I'd imagine that the different polyesters that you get now are different if you're having training gear and playing kit, making sure that the stitching would be a big one, because the last thing you'd want is someone in a jersey or a training gear and it to rip open.
Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. I think, you know, you can have the best relationship with somebody and, you know, you can talk the talk, but if they go out and their jerseys are ripping every week, you'll slowly lose that trust, and you're probably not going to get them back the year after, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, learning all that sort of thing takes a bit of time, but yeah, just quality, mate. You might not make as much money, but I think as the relationship grows, they'll kind of understand the quality and be happy to pay that extra premium.
Yeah. From a business point of view, making sure that quality is paramount to what you do so you can get that ongoing relationship. Might sacrifice a little bit of profit or a little bit of income in the first couple of years, but knowing that actually we'll continue to get better, their orders might continue to get larger, and just playing on going, our growth is tailored to theirs if we can do a good job for them to start with.
Yeah, I've talked to many of people that have kind of been in the business space, and yeah, you do definitely have to sacrifice that bit of profit early on, especially where, you know, husband and wife, you know, doing a couple of clubs going against the bigger brands that are doing thousands and thousands of pieces of apparel today. No matter how much somebody likes you, you've still got to be competitive with price, or simply from a club point of view, it's a no-brainer. They've just got to go with a bigger brand to save that money. But as you said, then growing the relationship, the partnership with these clubs, they can see that you're helping above and beyond. I think as the relationship grows, they're probably happy to pay that little bit of premium, because you're not just supplying them a jersey. You're actually partnering with that club, helping them with, you know, sponsorships, building relationships with other clubs. And then probably, you know, price isn't probably the biggest aspect anymore. If you're paying an extra $2-3 a training top, you know, when they can kind of see you bending over backwards and always kind of being transparent from start to finish.
People buy from people.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and that's why we want to stay true to our roots and be transparent from the time. I'll never go away of kind of being a community-based apparel business. I think, you know, lots of people have asked that. As much as we grow, I'll always want to kind of just stick to the community side of things.
If I'm running West Newcastle Rugby League or South Rugby League, how do I get in contact with Josh and Thea from Goosey Sports?
So we've got our website, just gooseysports.com. You can reach out like any time through there, or our main contact then, probably point of contact would be Instagram. We get a lot of attraction from there, or we do have a Facebook page as well.
Yeah.
Really, but
Yeah, definitely head on the website. It's got a bit of a landing page, and then we'll try and, we always aim to get back to people within that 48 hours from the first inquiry. And,
What's one bit of advice you'd give a budding young entrepreneur that wants to turn their passion into a reality in a business like you two have?
I could do a whole podcast on this on this thing. Look, yeah, you know, like I'm not here saying I'm a massive entrepreneur. You know, I'm a hustler myself, but I think the biggest bit of advice for me is if you do have an idea, or you know, you're constantly thinking of something, is start it. Like, you learn a lot more actually starting and trying something. You know, jumping on the phone and making a few phone calls, you learn a lot more there than reading 5 books kind of telling you what to do. Obviously, find a problem, and figure out a way to solve it. You know, and the more expensive the problem, then probably the more money you'll make. But yeah, just start. Just start. Get a bit of a plan together. No, you know, if it's in the apparel space, obviously do your research. If it's, you know, I don't know, whatever sort of business, just start, and kind of friends and family will get you so far, and then you kind of you just got to really dive in and follow the plan.
Just give it a shot.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, you hear so many people talking about ideas, and you think, wow, why don't you give it a go? And a lot of people probably worry about what people are going to think of them. Oh, he thinks he's going to go out and do this, or he's going to go out and do that. You know, if people are making a bit of noise, you're probably doing something right. So, yeah, just kind of have a crack. The rest will follow.
It's always a bit of an imposter syndrome when you're first starting out. People say, no, you can't do that. Or
Yeah,
it's probably more the doubt yourselves will go, like,
Yeah.
I don't even know anything about apparel or GSM weights or stitching or what sort of polyester fabric blends will go in with. How do I get the sublimation of different types of logos on a jersey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a big learning and steep learning curve to just think that I can go, oh, you know, Parks need some training gear, I'll get it for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and to be honest with you, that's how we did kind of start. We just had to learn as we went, you know. I didn't know too much
Still
about
learning,
it there.
really.
And you
Well,
still
I
learn.
definitely
Yeah, and when I went over to the factory, I just had so much more understanding by the time I left of how everything was actually put together and created, you know. So, yeah, I've got a bit of imposter syndrome sitting here kind of talking on a podcast about you know, business and financial growth, to be honest with you. But yeah, I guess sometimes when you're probably sitting here, you have a bit of gratitude and reflect where you've come from in the last few years. Or if I look at myself back as an 18-year-old from Bridgend in South Wales, I probably never thought I'd kind of be doing what we're doing now. So grateful for a supportive partner that's kind of helped me take the risks over the last few years.
Probably the biggest highlight there is how supportive that Thea is. You were the one with the contract to come out here and play, but Thea gave up her job and come out here to support you.
Oh,
very easy decision.
but and not just that, like you know, over the last few years, I've always had to come up with a few ideas, and probably I'll say when we started Goosey Sports, we were living in Parkstall, and you know, we weren't financially great. We had a few, probably I think it was about $2,500 in savings, where I came up with the idea, and I think it was about $1,800 we spent on our first load of samples to come from somebody we never met, you know. And obviously I asked Thea, and yeah, that's how it all started. She said, if you think it's going to work, give it a go. And yeah, we spent $1,800 of that $2,500. And yeah, here we are now, just kind of slowly building the business. So for it, I'm pretty grateful she let me spend that money, to be honest with you.
Turned out to be a great investment.
Yeah.
Now, probably the most important question, where did the name come from?
So yeah, Goosey Sports was just kind of, we wanted to change the direction in the market. Obviously change the direction with the sidestep there. So yeah, kind of that was kind of the thought process behind it. We wanted to be different, change the direction, change of pace in the market as well, I guess, was a big thing. And yeah, that's probably still our point of difference now. You know, we get back to people quickly because we are a small business, and we've also can kind of beat most lead times, which is a big selling point for us at Goosey Sports.
Can be, because I know full well when you're playing in small country rugby league or towns that, where's my gear?
Yeah.
When am I getting my gear? And it can be a pain point. And then the committees, it's the last thing that they want to deal with is whinging middle-aged blokes saying, where's their training gear at?
Yeah.
Or where's it up to? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nah.
Quick fire, finish off, wrap
Fast
up.
five.
Fast five. 5 little questions to finish off with. Coffee order.
Almond lattes.
Almond lattes.
Almond lattes. Yeah.
League or union?
Oh.
What are you?
I'd rather watch League.
Yeah, I'm a rugby union boy. through and through. That came to Australia and turned into a bit of a leaguey, to be honest with you. So yeah, love both. Both very different aspects that I love, but yeah, happy playing both.
Diplomatic.
Yeah.
A daily habit that you both live by or both do, is it the almond lattes?
Yeah, definitely that. Write it down. Write everything down.
What was that? Sorry.
Like a daily habit that you have?
Yeah. For me and is being consistent. But I don't do it all the time. But when I am going well, is kind of planning tomorrow the night before. You know, I think if, as Thea said, if we've got a bit of a plan in place and we wake up and we know where we're going from start to finish, we get a lot more done than kind of cruising through.
I tell you, that makes a big difference when you've got school-age children,
Yeah.
and if they've got their clothes ready for the next day, geez, it saves a lot of arguments the next morning.
It doesn't always.
Could be one small win.
Motto or an analogy that you live by?
Oh, I got a few. I can't say mine.
Of course you can, mate.
Yeah, I don't know, mate, to be honest with you. I'm probably caught off guard there. I've got it tattooed on my arm, is live with no excuses and love with no regret.
It's a lovely one. Yeah. If you could go back to on the plane ride coming over here to Australia 10 or 11 years ago, what would you tell yourselves?
Oh, that's a good one.
Don't give up. Just keep
Yeah.
going forward.
Yeah, it's gonna be a ride. There's gonna be some very tough times in there, being away from family with things happening and stuff. But just stick it through, and you'll come out the other end.
Beautiful. Josh, Thea from Goosey Sports, thank you very much for coming on to Your Wealth Playbook.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us. I do really appreciate it.